80% chance of rain, they said. I even brought my filming umbrella for the camera, which is useless. I was going to do emergency fire in the rain, but isn't that just the way that life goes sometimes? It certainly doesn't go the way that you want it to go. But hey, life sucks. Grab a helmet, get the job done. You know, the reason that they call it an emergency is because it isn't ideal conditions, you don't have ideal resources, the timing just sucks. I mean, that's what it is. It's an emergency. So the question really becomes, well, what do you do in an emergency when it isn't ideal conditions, when you don't have the right resources? How do you get a fire started when you don't have exactly what you want? Now let's talk about the things that we should have been doing before we found ourselves in this place. We should have been looking for resources, situational awareness. We should have been looking for fat wood and poplar bark and cedar bark and birch bark. You know, our tinder sources and our fire extenders, because those are the things that you need for a fire, right? You gotta have tinder, you gotta have kindling, and you gotta have fuel, because that's what conventional wisdom tells you, is that you have to have those three things. They also tell you that you need softwoods to start the fires and you need hardwoods to maintain them. And I could have done a video where I staged it, right? I had stuff set off to the side that was nice and dry, and I could have this beautiful fire built for y'all, and then I would have been the hero. But that's not authentic, and that's not going to help you. Now, the very first thing that people want to do when this happens is they want to set down their pack and they want to go look for resources, but that's wrong. The very first thing you got to do is you've got to remove yourself from the condition that's actually causing the problem. And that means that we've got to put a shelter together. All right, we're back from the time lapse, and now, as you can see, I've got a plow point up, which I think is one of the best shelters for what we're about to do. If you set it up right, you should have enough headroom inside of it, and you should have enough space to bring materials into. So now that we have a place that we can retreat to and we can work in, now it's time to go get the stuff we need. Never get stuff off of the ground. Oh my God, I've broke the rules of the simulation. I'm gonna get sued by all the survivalists and bushcrafters on YouTube. What are you doing, man? You're ruining YouTube. Can't tell if it's wet or not because it's so cold out here. Now we have a place to work. The problem is nobody wants to do the work. 1, 2, I don't want to do it. I just want to buy it at the gas station. I'll pay somebody to do it. My hands weren't meant to do this, man. The other YouTubers make it look so easy. It is easy. Stop being a bitch. I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. Oh! 1, 2, 3. I am allergic to this kind of work. Isn't there like a Amazon product that does this for you? So satisfying. Listening to the crackling. Once you have a bundle about this size, move it to the back and keep on trucking. You know, the truth is, survival is actually really boring. Again and again. Well, this sucks, JJ. I just don't want to do this. I know, I'm trying to prevent you from doing this in the future. So why don't you just sit there and think about what you've not done? Why you gotta be so mean? I'm not being mean. Plus, there's something that's not said very much about this kind of work. You're staying on task, and it's really good for your mentality, actually, because you're doing some work. It's not hard, and there's gonna be an instantaneous reward after we're done. This is actually the process that most people just skip over. They don't show you, you know, how long this takes, or, you know, what you have to do while you're doing it. Everything's not perfect the way you see it. It's just kind of boring. Some people actually really enjoy this part. All right, we did a little bit more, so let's transfer that. Boom. But wait, there's more. Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies. By the way, if they're not cracking, you've gotten the wrong stuff. This is dead, even though it's wet. We can still get this to burn. If it just bends on you, then it's probably still alive or it is soaking wet. I can do it, put my back into it. I'm gonna do it, gonna do it, gonna do it, do it, do it. Do. You know, and the tendency when you're doing stuff like this, like say you waited till the actual storm and you're having to do this in the rain, you're probably not gonna have a very good attitude. You gotta steer yourself away from that. You gotta take small victories as they come, realize how you got yourself into this mess to begin with, and understand that when you do get yourself into this kind of mess, you gotta dig yourself out. Don't need this guy. Whoa. And the thing is, it may feel like it's taken forever, but I mean, the reality of this is taking me less than 10 minutes to do. Ooh, that was a good one. All right, we got all the little stuff processed. Move it to the back. And when it was all said and done, that's what we got out of it. The biggest thing is that now we have protected our work. It's up underneath the shelter right now, and it's gonna stay nice and dry. Now, a lot of you are saying, okay, that's good. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and start the fire. And you would be wrong. But Jay, we're tired of watching you work. Just start the fire already. We still got a few more miles to go. You're killing me. There's one, the bark is a little wet. Normally you can check for moisture content, but the wood is so cold, I can't tell right now. You put it up to something sensitive, you can usually feel the moisture. But right now it's just so cold, I can't tell. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a test piece. You can see it's wet, even underneath the bark. So we're gonna try to get to the dry stuff inside. I'm gonna make a little baton real fast. This is definitely some hard wood for sure. And you may be asking, well, what is it, Jay? And the answer is, I don't know. It's yard wood. This may or may not work. Yeah, it's definitely wet under there. So far, it's doing okay. It is definitely not ideal. It'd be nice to have some straight grain white pine or something with us right now. Let's see if I can even make a curl. Oh, there we go. We can. You can make curls out of hardwood if you've got the experience. All right, so we'll save that. We're gonna make some curls out of that here in just a minute. But first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut this up and make our hearth. All right, now what I'm looking for on this piece of wood is anywhere that is kinda straight without any knots. And the problem is, well, there's knots everywhere in it. But I think I could get this section right here, and then we can go ahead and process that out a little bit. And then we'll save the rest of this stuff to make us a hearth on the ground to separate us from the moisture. Now, somebody may be asking, why didn't you go ahead and produce the curls? And the reason is because the air is saturated with moisture right now, and you don't want your thinnest stuff to be absorbing the moisture while you're doing the rest of your work. That's just nasty, but that's what we wanted to do. Sometimes you have to just go ahead and take your knife and get rid of some of that outside moisture. That piece is no good. Let's get that off of the ground. Soaking wet. Just chunk that one. Okay, so we got done making our hearth. Now we can take that and we can transfer that to the back. Make sure you stay hydrated. All we got to do is process this stuff out. Sometimes it comes out just ugly. Can we get one more? Let's see if we can make some curls. All right, let's see if that's enough. And let's clear a spot real quick. That's all nasty. Let's go ahead and build our fire lay. All right, now we could do something fancy like get out a ferro rod and we could strike it forever and it would look really cool, but that's just not practical. Hopefully you've got a Bic lighter in your pocket. So we'll just grab a handful of twigs and we'll put that there. Grab another handful and we'll put them there. You want it to look like that, so there's a little cubby hole right there. All right, now you're gonna take your handful of shavings and you're just gonna try to light one of them. Start a little mini fire, protect it. And you can see all that moisture coming off of the wood. You gotta hold this in your hands. You can't be afraid of it. Now we're gonna very, very carefully put this into the fire. And that's what you want right there. Now we're gonna grab the rest of these real quick. And we're gonna set them right here in a perfect triangle. Here's our little inferno. Now we're just gonna sit here and let that catch. You don't want to put any more fuel on it until the fire reaches the top of the fire lay. Whew, a lot of moisture in this wood. You can see all of the smoke coming off of it. Whoa, not to the camera. That looks awesome. Okay, now that's gonna burn off pretty quick. And it's gonna provide a coal bed that we can work with. Now, while we have the heat, we can throw some of this little stuff on there just to keep it going. All we're looking for is just a nice bed of coals. And once it gets hot enough, what it'll do is it'll drive the moisture out of the wood that we just processed. We're almost to the point where it can sustain itself. And one reason that we put these down like this is as it burns down, this is actually gonna drive the moisture out of this wood right here, the hearth, and we'll have a really nice bed of coals. We'll just slowly keep adding the not so ideal material that we had. Now this is really hot and it's driving the moisture out of that wood as we speak. It looks like the fire's about to go out, but it's not. Wow, look at all that moisture coming off of it. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. The wind is actually helping us out. We don't have to blow into the fire. It's doing the job for us. All right, now I'm gonna take some of these and I'm gonna start adding them to the pile. Wow, it really is just nasty weather today. And like I said, we don't want a rip-roaring fire. We just want a little bit of fire right here to give us a little warmth, maybe boil some water. It's really hard to maintain a fire when everything is just soaking wet. Just a little bit at a time, increasing the size of the fuel as we go. Now, the eventual goal that we want is we want to create enough coals that we can literally go back out again and we can get more supplies and we can do the same thing that we just did. Now, this is the kind of thing where you've actually got to sit here for a little bit and make sure that you're not going to burn anything up. Make sure that, you know, you're putting a little bit of fuel on it to maintain it, because you still have to drive the moisture out of this wood as well. But once we get to the point where we feel like we can leave the coal bed alone, that's when we can go and we can start harvesting some more material. It's just so much moisture. This is why we're always telling you to get dead standing wood. If you can find the dead twigs that are on the side of like pine trees, for example, you know, things that actually crack in your hands, trying to find ideal resources because it prevents you from having to do what we're doing right now. But the thing is, it can be done. You just have to take your time, have a little bit of experience, knowing what to do all of the work, get everything ready, and then execute. Now, what I'm hoping is that we can get this to a point where it will take care of itself for a little while. I'm gonna say about 15 minutes to allow us to go get some more material. And then I wanna have enough material left over that I can get the fire started again once we get here. As long as we have a good set of coals, we can definitely get the fire started again. Well, it's drying out my knees for sure. You can see now that I don't have to add a ton of fuel to it to keep it going. That's because we've got a lot of heat going now. And one thing that actually worked in our favor is we're actually working with hardwood. Now this is actually beech that we're working with, which is actually an excellent wood for cooking on. The coals are nice and even. You don't get the pops or the embers coming off of it. It's not exactly the best wood to start a fire with, but it's definitely a really good one for maintaining. Like if we wanted to boil water right now, we could certainly do it. Now we can put some of those larger pieces right there. Let that heat from the coals drive the moisture out. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save this, and then we'll go back out and we'll go get some more supplies. All right, we went back out. Got us a few more twigs, tinned our fire. Now this time we should have enough heat that we can get the fire going again. Moderate sized pieces. Time to process again. Now if you wanted to, you could build this fire back up. You could do a little processing like we're doing right now, and then you could go back out again, get more supplies, and you could start increasing the size of the wood that you're actually putting on there. The important thing is you've got to build up enough heat. So we go ahead, we start getting these little small twigs in case we got to get the fire started again. But this time we're a little bit further ahead than we were last time. And as you can see, our fire is just a little bit more sustainable than it was when we left it. The thing that's different this time is while we're doing our processing, we actually have a fire to sit next to. Okay, now we can take those supplies. We'll add a couple back to the pile. Add a couple mids on there. We'll take this, we'll put it in the back. It's the kind of thing that just requires maintenance. And so it really accomplishes two things, because you stay warm while you're out actually getting the materials, and then you stay warm while you're processing it inside of here as well. And unfortunately, if you don't have really good resources, this is the kind of thing that you have to do. But what I really wanted to show was that you could do it. Now that the heat has driven out all of the moisture, you can see that we'll actually have a maintainable fire here in just a second. And this time we're actually gonna leave it with some thicker pieces of wood. So now when we go back out, we're gonna look for something a little bit thicker than what we brought the second time. And to get it started, we already have our work done. It's ready to go. We'll put the small stuff on top of that. We'll blow it into a flame and we'll start adding bigger stuff. And you can keep repeating this process until you're actually putting, logs on here. Now, obviously, if you're gonna do it underneath your shelter like this, you can't have a huge fire or you're gonna burn up your shelter. And most of the time, people tell you to take at least 3 feet, a giant step past your shelter, and that's where you should put the fire. Now, in this case, I'm not looking for a huge fire. I just want a really small fire that I can maintain just to give myself a little bit of warmth, dry out stuff like my knees and maybe my gloves if I was wearing that, or maybe my shoes. Something to lift your spirits a little bit, boil some water, maybe make some food now. Fire is definitely the TV of the woods. It's nice to just sit here and watch the flames dance around. And after about maybe 1 or 2 more cycles of this, we could actually cook a steak on this. Now, if it's actually raining on the fire itself, you don't have anything to protect the fire, then you've got to keep feeding it constantly, because that water is just gonna drive the heat out of it. All right, this time I'm gonna add a little bit thicker wood to the pile. And as you can see, once the moisture is driven out of the wood right there, then you have a nice little fire. Now, when you go back out to get wood, you don't want anything that is larger than the size of your wrist. This is actually way bigger than my wrist. It doesn't look like it on video, but it is. This is a lot bigger than my wrist is. You want to stay away from wood that's that size. And the reason is because you just don't want to have to drive the moisture out of something that large, especially when you don't have something like an axe to help you process it out. Now, you'll notice that every time that we come back to this pile, the coal bed gets a little bit bigger, and that just makes it easier and easier to start the fire back up. So you just do the same thing each time. Just keep adding wood back to the pile. What do you know, when it's cold, the batteries die faster in your cameras and mics. The thing is, it's right at freezing, and I only got a couple hours of filming out of that. All I wanted to do was to show you one more iteration and show you how you can maintain the fire. But I truly think you get the point. Number one, you don't want to get into the emergency. You can prevent it before it happens. Number two, if you do get in the emergency, make sure that you're prepared with all the stuff that you need, all your fire supplies. And number three, if you find yourself in a true emergency and you don't have all that stuff, you're gonna have to work for it. So I apologize for the technical difficulties, but that's just the way filming goes. What I did was I took that time, charged up my phone just a little bit, enough where I could do the outro. I went ahead and packed all my stuff up. I started letting the fire die down so that I can go ahead and pour some water on it, dispose of it properly, and do the and make sure that I do the leave no trace thing properly. You know, sometimes it gets frustrating for us out here, guys. One thing that I do know is that if you're honey smack digging the video, then leave me a snide remark in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And until next time, y'all, keep fueling those fires. Maybe next time I'll get to use my filming umbrella. All right, by the way, it's been 2 hours and it's still burning. You know, I wish I had a steak right now. Perfect coals for cooking. That's the way it always works too. Okay, it's been 3 hours. I'm gonna rake the coals back together. Let's see if you can get a flame. Just imagine if we had gone 3 hours picking up, you know, supplies. All right, so here we go. There's our pile of coals. Come on, baby, give it to me. Just a little bit more. You've got a little bit more in you. There she goes. All right, there you have it. I'm done filming, y'all. Catch you on the next one.